Gabe Kremenko. I've been a lifeguard for 3 years. This job is definitely not a joke, and if you're going to decide to be a lifeguard, then you should definitely be very serious about it and know that at any second something can happen. My worst day was definitely a few weeks ago when I had to jump into the water a few times and save a few people because they started to drown. It's really a split-second decision when you look at somebody and you have to realize if they're just holding their breath and everything's fine or if they're actually drowning. But it's really important with your observation skills. As you're scanning the pool, you know how everyone's acting. And as soon as something goes wrong, a sense of panic enters somebody's body and mind. And if you have the ability to recognize that, that's when you're able to realize that it's time to go. The most rewarding experience I've had lifeguarding was when a woman thanked me for saving her life after I saved her. It was definitely nice to see that she appreciated me being there. The most important thing for a lifeguard to be able to do is to have good observation skills. Without good observation skills, you can miss somebody that's about to drown, or you might miss somebody that fell, that's not even in the pool, but is around the pool and fell and needs your help. So it's really important to always be able to keep a lookout and be able to notice somebody that is okay and then somebody that needs help.
Swimming facilities are typically divided into zones of surveillance. The supervisor or facility manager designates these zones to provide the best visual coverage of patrons. Your zone can change based on the number of people in the zone, the type or variety of activities going on, and environmental conditions affecting visibility. The phrase zone coverage means that the swimming area is divided into separate zones, with at least one lifeguard assigned to each zone. When providing zone coverage, you need to be aware of the zone boundaries for each guard's position. These zones will usually overlap to provide double coverage at the boundary areas. If an emergency occurs in an overlapping area, both you and the lifeguard of the adjoining zone are responsible. Whoever first notices the emergency should activate the EAP. When assigned total coverage, you will be the only lifeguard conducting patron surveillance while on duty. Smaller facilities may always assign total coverage. At larger facilities, total coverage may be used for specific situations, such as when the number of patrons is low. At any time while you're providing coverage, if you feel you can't be effective alone, let a supervisor know you need help. Adequate backup coverage should always be available. If a lifeguard must enter the water for a rescue in a multiple lifeguard facility, the remaining lifeguards must now supervise a larger area. They might need to move or stand up at their stations to improve their view. Meanwhile, the other lifeguards monitor the rescue and provide support as required by their emergency action plan. Lifeguards are responsible for performing effective surveillance from a variety of positions, including ground-level stations, elevated stations, floating stations, and roving stations. If you work from a ground-level station, you'll likely be assigned to a certain location on deck or in shallow water. These kinds of stations are often found in shallow water play areas, at the ends of slides, and around winding rivers. Ground-level stations are closer to patrons, which can make communicating with patrons easier. When at a ground-level station, make sure to keep your focus on surveillance and do not become distracted. Working from an elevated station will usually give you a broad view of your zone and will help minimize the effects of glare. An elevated station can also be a benefit when you're responsible for providing total coverage. When using this type of station, make sure you know how to safely exit the stand when responding to an emergency or doing a rotation. Be aware that elevated stations can create surveillance blind spots near and directly under the stand. Don't overlook these areas. Be certain to scan under, directly around, and in front of the stand as part of your routine surveillance strategy. A lifeguard in a roving station provides walking surveillance coverage at ground level, while a guard in an elevated station provides coverage for the same zone at the same time. This extra coverage assures thorough surveillance when facilities are particularly crowded. Because roving guards are mobile, they're able to scan while positioning themselves within the zone where the need is greatest. Roving stations are also helpful when providing total coverage, as walking not only keeps the lifeguard more alert, but also helps provide multiple vantage points from which to scan the water. Floating stations are usually used as extra coverage to patrol the outer edge of a waterfront swimming area. Floating stations include rescue boards, kayaks, and other watercraft. Facilities with floating stations should provide the necessary training for their use. During a typical workday, you will likely complete several rotations. Rotations are when lifeguards rotate from one station to another. Rotations help you stay alert and fight fatigue and monotony. No matter what kind of station you're working in, your rotation into or out of the station must be done with uninterrupted surveillance of that zone. At ground level stations, this is done by beginning your scan of the zone as you walk to the station. When you arrive, stand to the side of the outbound lifeguard. Continue your scan of the zone while you exchange any details that could be important to your effective coverage of that zone. Following this information exchange, tell the other lifeguard that you have the zone covered, and she is free to rotate out. The outbound lifeguard then continues her scan of the zone as she is walking away from the station. The procedure for rotating into and out of elevated stations is similar to that of ground level stations. But it is also slightly different because of the need to climb up to and down from the station. Begin scanning as you walk toward the station. When you arrive, stand to the side of the station while you continue scanning the zone. After a few moments of scanning, tell the other lifeguard that you have the zone covered and that he can climb down. Once the outbound lifeguard is on deck, he positions himself on the other side of the station and resumes his scan of the zone. Verbally confirm that he is actively scanning, then climb up into the station, make any necessary adjustments, and resume your scanning of the zone. Exchange any details that could be important to your effective coverage of that zone. Following this information exchange, tell the other lifeguard that you have the zone covered and he is free to rotate out. The outbound lifeguard will continue his scan of the zone as he rotates to the next station.